Hi, good morning, Zoomers, and hello, everyone in the room. So this morning we have got Alexander Kolesnikov, who is a student of astrology since the end of the 1980s. He's an author of 8 books published in Russia and is currently working on a comprehensive guide of the astrology of space. He is also a web developer and an author of several mobile apps, the most popular of them being iLuna. And today we'll be talking about the local space chart, the ultimate tool of the astrology of space. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for coming for my talk. So the main topic today is the local space charts. But before speaking about it, I want to give you a brief overview of the astrology of space or locality astrology. It's the same. And I want to start from this very interesting idea, which was put forward by Charles Jayne, a very insightful astrologer of the 20th century. He wrote that locality astrology is basically a progression in space. Just think about it. We all have our natal charts, and in them, our achievements, our talents, our failures, everything is encoded. But when it all will happen? We usually use methods of forecasting which work in time, and they can tell us that something will happen in that age. For example, they might tell us that we will find our ideal partner when we will be aged 80, or that the biggest achievement in our career will happen when at the age of 300 or something like that. We don't control the time, that's the problem. We don't control time. And of course, there are different methods of forecasting. They work in different scales, but still we can just wait and see what's going to happen, something like that. And with astrology of space, because different methods of forecasting that highlight or activate different areas of our natal charts, and then something comes to the forefront. With the astrology of space, we can achieve a similar result by moving in space, because we can control space. We can't control time, but we can control space. We can go somewhere where our relationships will be at the forefront, or where our career will become activated, and so on. So this is a very promising and a very exciting area of astrology. Similar to how we have transits, progressions, and so on in the astrology of time. In the astrology of space, there are also different methods we can use. The first, or different technologies, I would say. The first method or the first technology is relocation and astrocartography. I've put them together because, well, you know, relocation is an old technique. It's about creating a chart for the same moment in time when we were born, but for the location which is interesting to us. The location not of birth, but of where we moved later. That's relocation. And astrocartography is basically the same relocation, just of the computer age. We simply create many relocations and mark on the map where in those relocations our natal planets will appear on the angles. Ascendant, MC, descendant, IC. So that's relocation and astrocartography. Geodetic equivalence is a totally different technology. Basically, it's a projection of zodiac onto the surface of Earth, of the planet Earth. And there are different versions of this projection, but the most famous and the most well-known and the simplest actually is the version of Sephiroth. And I'm going to tell you a little bit and show some examples of it. And the third is local space. It's again a very different technology, a very different approach to astrology of space. And it was, as far as I know, it was invented or introduced or created by Michael Eldevine of Matrix Software, the creator of the company Matrix Software. Maybe someone else suggested this idea earlier, but it's actually just one person who is behind the whole technology. My example, it's usually a pain to find a good example. Reading those articles in Wikipedia, which are quite brief, and they list the events which we might be not very interested in. I chose Arnold Schwarzenegger because I happened to read a book about his autobiography, The Total Recall. So I knew a little bit about his life, so I chose him as an example. Also, we have the time of birth for him. Here is the data, the 10th of July, 1947, 4:10 a.m. from memory. Also, he's interesting because he was born in one place in Austria, but there are two places in the world which are very important in his life. It's London and Los Angeles, California. And first, let's have a look at relocation. On the left-hand side is his natal chart for the place where he was born in Graz, Austria. And on the right-hand side is his relocation to Los Angeles. And sometimes people say relocation, it shouldn't be valid. How can we have a different chart? We have already a natal chart. Why do we need something else? But actually, relocation simply shifts the emphasis. It uses the same chart, but let's see. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's got his Jupiter in the 5th house, and Jupiter rules the 10th house. So it's his career, and it's his career which he likes very much. Jupiter is some activity in the 5th house, something he's successful in, something he likes very much, and that's connected to his career. This is in his natal chart. And look what happens in Los Angeles. Jupiter comes into the 10th house. So we could suggest that this career, beloved career, we may say, which is shown in the natal chart, becomes his some achievement, forms his place in the world, in Los Angeles. This is relocation. And we can also see that a stellium from the 1st house moves to the 7th house. So we can say that, yes, this is a very interesting personality with Mercury on the ascendant, with Venus in the 1st house, with the Sun close to the cusp or on the cusp of the 2nd house. But then all of this goes into the 7th house. So he shows all his dignities, abilities through relationships with people. Just an example of relocation. And then we can create an astrocartography map. And we can verify that Jupiter is indeed on the MC in the west of the United States. And other things, these planets on the descendant. This is astrocartography. And usually astrocartography is interpreted without looking at what's going on with planets in the natal chart or in the relocation chart. Usually Jupiter is just success, Mars is a problem, the Sun is individuality or creativity or ego. But this is a very superficial, I think, level of interpretation. I think in astrocartography, we should bear in mind the peculiarity of the planet's position in the natal chart. Because we can say that this person will find love on the line of maybe Venus on the descendant. But if in the natal chart that Venus is very strongly afflicted, has bad aspects, and maybe in Scorpio or in Aries, where Saturn, let's say, maybe retrograde, then person will follow the line of Venus and find problems. Maybe not what we expected just from the symbolic description of Venus. So we should bear that in mind. We should keep in our mind the zodiacal states of the planet, how it is aspected. And if it's very strong in the natal chart, like in the 10th house and the first house, then its lines will be very strong and prominent in the astrocartography. Some slides are not showing for some reason. I don't know why. There should be another slide here.
Is it, if you keep going, does it then get to the right slide or not?
Yeah, but then it misses a few slides, which were important. Okay.
I'm not too sure.
Something happened to the slides.
Let's have a look if they.
Yeah, if you scroll it like this.
Here you go.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah. This is what I wanted to show. Let's do it like this. The other technology, the second group of technologies is geodetic projections. Basically, we project zodiac onto the surface of the planet Earth. And in Cepharial's version, it's very simple. He says that 0 Aries is Greenwich meridian in longitude. And it appears on the MC. 0 Aries on the MC, it's for the locations with the longitude of Greenwich meridian. And if some location, say, has longitude 10 degrees east, then it will be 10 degrees Aries on the MC, and so on. So you see the zodiac on the MC, those red lines show different signs of the zodiac on the MC. And if we know the MC and we know the latitude of the place, we can find the ascendant, right? And other cusps of houses. So these yellow lines show the ascendants, the borders, the ascendants, the sign of the ascendant. So basically what does zodiacal projection? It assigns to every place on the planet Earth, be it a village or a big city, its own system of coordinates, its own ascendant, its own MC. It belongs to the location. And if a person comes to that location, his or her natal planets plug into that system of coordinates, into that ascendant or MC, and his or her Venus might appear on the ascendant of the place, and then he or she will be liked in this place. Or maybe his or her Sun will appear on the location's MC, and then they will achieve some success, or will be very noticeable and popular in the society. And the benefit of this technique is that you don't really need to know the time of birth, because the houses is what very time sensitive, but they belong to the location. They will be the same for everyone. London will have its own ascendant and MC, Rio de Janeiro, its own, and coming to those places, we as if more or less successfully plug into the energies of the earth, so to say. And let's have a look. Oops. Not that. Sorry, Charlie.
No.
Yeah, should I scroll down? Ah, that's it. Oh, great. This is a geodetic chart for Arnold Schwarzenegger for London. So basically, I took the system of houses for London. It will be the same for you and me. The ascendant of London is 26 something Cancer. The MC is very, very close, last degree of Pisces, because Greenwich is just a little bit to the east of the center of London. And when Arnold Schwarzenegger comes there to London, his Venus is directly, precisely on the ascendant. What can we say? Is London a good place for Arnold Schwarzenegger? I think it is. And actually, he was quite successful when he came. for the first time, being a young guy from Austria, nobody knew him, London for a competition, bodybuilding competition. I think it was Mr. Universe or something, very important competition. He didn't have any high hopes, but he was so popular. He was so successful here that he was amazed. And many years after that, he was coming to London and winning competitions, and London was a very happy place for him. The interesting side of this geodetic projection approach, forgot, is that we can create a map very similar to astrocartography map, but without knowing the time of birth. Because what happens? We just scan the world and put a dot on the locations where the person's, say, Venus appears on the ascendant. Like, you know, this is for Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is his line of Venus on the ascendant. Or maybe the Sun on the NC, and so on. So it looks exactly like an astrocartography map, but the technology is totally different, and the information it shows is different as well. But it's just another look. It's like you can use progressions, or you can use directions, and they will give you different views of what's going on in the person's life. So this was geodetic projection. And finally, we are coming to the main method of this presentation. It's local space. In local space, we're dealing with the horizontal system of coordinates. So we're as if this is Graz in Austria, and for example, the person was born there, and we're looking in which direction various planets were. For example, the sun was there. So if we want to implement or realize the potential of our sun, we should follow that direction. And Venus was probably somewhere there, Jupiter. And if we want to be successful, if we want to expand, if we want to find wisdom, we should follow Jupiter and go in that direction. And the lines are showing, this is the line of Jupiter, this is the line of Chiron, and so on. In most cases, when people are speaking or thinking about local space astrology, they think about this kind of colored lines. But this is only one view of this technology. And similar to how in astrocartography, we have a limited information about relocation, and we only see the angularity lines. But the relocation map contains a lot more information. It shows us in which signs the planets are, which houses they rule, and so on. So relocation chart has a lot more information than astrocartography map. But astrocartography is easier to just at one glance to see important areas. So similarly here, this is just one view of local space astrology, those colored lines. Actually, local space astrology is to some degree very popular in Russia, but in a very limited sense, because people use it as a kind of astrological feng shui. They put these lines onto the map of the city and decide where the person should go for education, for work, to do shopping, or to socialize, maybe to the island of Venus, or Jupiter, whatever. Or even they can put these directions onto a plan of an apartment or a house, and then they say, put your TV there, put your sofa there, and things like that. And this is so well developed in Russia that developers of astrological software, they have this capability to add to this local space, display the map of the city or the plan of the apartment, and the overlay. But that's again a very, very narrow view. We can create such a map for the whole world. It shows us maybe some interesting information. It actually works because when I moved to Glasgow in 2005, I moved along the line of the moon. And it was amazing because for all those 5 years, when I was coming to Glasgow airport, even from a short trip, say to Bristol, I was feeling like I'm coming home. I felt myself very much at home in Scotland. And I bought my first house there, and it was very, very, the symbolism of the moon was very strong there. And I still like very much coming to Scotland. I feel it's like my home. I don't know why. I don't speak Gaelic, I don't understand all the Scottish accents, but.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I see the planets are not regular on the same parallel, so is that because it takes into account the real declination of those planets? So if I look at it right now, do I have a 3D declination?
It's not really the declination, it's the azimuth. Imagine that we're dealing with the azimuth here.
Yeah, I know that, but what I'm saying is that you see the moon is down south in South America. Is it the moon down there? I'm not sure. There's some symbol down.
There's the moon, yes.
The dot, I mean, its distance from the equator, is it actually every single dot the actual declination that we have on the planet? You see, every line has indication of each planet, right?
Yes, yes.
So that takes into account, is it just by chance, the distance from the equator, it takes into account the declination?
The idea is that if you follow the planet from the place of birth and you travel like 100 kilometers and you see where the planet is now, and it will change its direction because it's a spheric astronomy thing. So those are not straight lines, because if you will be moving, it will change in the direction, and you will see it on examples. So, but what if I want to go, or he wants, Arnold, to go to Canada, to the center of Canada, and there are no lines there. So this method becomes not very interesting. It doesn't tell us anything. But again, referring to Russia, people there like Hamburg School, or so-called Uranian astrology, as it is called in the West. And there are 8 more planets, trans-Neptunian, and they use midpoints, so they have a lot of stuff there. And they would put all this, and they would have directions pretty much everything there. But again, it's only one view. And where we are coming now is to this chart. Not to this. How stupid can a person can be to do the same thing?
I just want to talk about it.
Yeah, okay. So in the same way, like relocation chart is the basis for astrocartography, local space chart is the basis for those colored lines for local space maps. Because this is where we see this local space chart was created for the place of birth, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And here we see what are the elements of this chart. It's a horizontal system. So this is the local horizon in the place of birth. There is some peculiarity in terminology. This was created in WinStar software, and in it you can create local space chart or local space map chart. The difference is in the orientation of the chart. Everything else is the same. In this case, if you choose map chart, which I prefer, you go north at the top, the same as on the map. South at the bottom, east to the right, so the orientation is the same as on geographical map. I prefer that. And you see the azimuths of planets. They're shown, the degrees. And those aspects are actually the aspects of azimuth. So if the azimuth of one planet and of another planet, the difference in azimuth between them is 120 degrees, that's a triangle. But that's not in ecliptic longitude, that's in azimuth. And here you see the azimuths of all planets. And also the second very important coordinate is the altitude. Where is the planet? Is it high in the sky? Or is it low? Or is it on the horizon or below the horizon? And here we see the altitudes of the planets and the azimuth. And here are the most important aspects. And I will tell you soon that the most fascinating feature of local space chart is that aspects are transformed in it. When you move from space to space, aspects change. And you will see in a moment how this happens. Just notice that the most precise aspect in the place of birth, in the local chart, space chart created for the place of birth, is Saturn's sextile Neptune. Not a very exciting aspect, to be honest. But let's have a look at the second chart, which was created for London. Same person, local space chart for London. It looks similar. Let's have a look at the aspects now. And we'll see that at the top of the chart is Venus trine Jupiter. And it's very, very precise. Just 7 minutes offset from the completely precise. So the aspects have changed. In London, the most precise aspect is Venus trine Jupiter. Not a surprise that he won so many prizes there. Just a quick glance. Now, Los Angeles. Local space chart for Los Angeles. Look, the aspects. Sun, sextile, Neptune. It became a movie star. And it's very precise. And the other very precise is Sun conjunction Pluto. He became a governor here. He got a lot of power. Sun with Pluto. Also very precise. And again, Venus trine Jupiter. So he probably earned a lot of money in this location. Not Saturn with Neptune is still somewhere here, but look, it's not that precise anymore. It's somewhere at the bottom. And now, my point is that local space chart is perhaps the most informative of the approaches of locality astrology, of the astrology of space. It offers us so much information, and also it is very sensitive. Sometimes if you use relocation and you moved, and you think it's quite a significant move, but it may be along a meridian, you won't find a lot of difference into charts, into relocation charts for different places. There's not so much information. With local space, there is usually a noticeable change. Aspects are formed or disappear, or some other factors. Actually, there are like 6 channels of information offered to us by local space chart. And the first, I already told you, is transformation of aspects. Depending on the location, some aspects can disappear completely. New aspects can appear, and they can be transformed, like squares can become trines, or trines can become squares, and vice versa. And interestingly, Martin Davis, who is probably the world's top authority in the astrology of space, says that, or wrote that the aspects in the local space chart really show the true experiences of the person in the given location. And I will show you that there is an aspect in the natal chart of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it doesn't appear in the local space chart for the place of birth. So there is a talent potential. There is something special in him, but it's not discovered if he will stay where he was born. That's also possible. So this is one of the most important and interesting features of the local space chart, transformation of aspects. We'll have a look at the details in a little bit. Second, very important factor, planets can become angular. What does it mean, angular? When a planet is within 5 degrees, Martin Davis tells us maybe 10 degrees of a cardinal point, east, west, north, or south, it becomes especially important in the given location. Its influence goes up, and people, events, areas of life associated with that planet come to the forefront of life, become energized. Talents corresponding to the planet can develop or strengthen. We'll have a look at the angularity a little bit later. The next important factor, the position on the horizon. When the altitude of the planet is 0 or close to 0, they're over 5 degrees. Topics related to such planets stay in focus, Michael Levine says. The person keeps thinking about them, and that planet can color the background of events in this location. It's like, look, you're looking around and you see some tree or some house always there in front of you on the horizon. You can't stop thinking about it. Whatever you do, wherever you go, it's still there. This is like a planet on the horizon. It just makes you thinking about this topic all the time. Next, there is more in local space chart. The highest planet, the planet with the highest altitude. It shows the person's priorities in the given location, what he or she aspires for, what are his or her aims, the highest planet, the biggest altitude. But the deepest planet is something I've added here, because nobody is writing about the deepest planet, but I think it's logical. The planet with the biggest negative altitude. It should be important. And I think it shows the foundation of life in the given location. What kind of anchor or roots is holding the person here, or what's feeding him, coming like from underground and makes him moving forward. And the final factor is parallels and contraparallels of altitude. If two planes have the same altitude with a knob of 1 to 2 degrees, one or two is your choice, but basically if those are luminaries or some personal planets, you probably will use the orb of 2 degrees. If it's something else, then 1 degree only. If they have the same altitude, that's a parallel of altitude. If the value is the same, but one is plus, the other is minus under the horizon, then it's a counter parallel of altitude. Now, let's find all this stuff in the charts of Arnold Schwarzenegger. First, the transformation of aspects. You see in the natal chart, the most precise aspect is Mercury trine Jupiter, and it's quite important. I will show you the natal chart again. And Mercury is on the ascendant, and the ascendant is in Cancer, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So it's a very, very important aspect. But look, in Graz, in the place of birth, there is no Mercury trine Jupiter in the local space chart. So in Graz is not a good place. The place of birth is not a good place to use this talent, this ability. But where does it appear? It appears in Los Angeles. And it's not very precise, but still, it appears in that location. But maybe there are other locations. I'm using only two where Schwarzenegger became even more able to use this talent. Next, Sun sextile Neptune is not very precise in the natal chart. It's even less precise in Graz, in Austria. It's not present in London, but it becomes the most precise aspect in Los Angeles, Hollywood. This potential was in the natal chart, but it was still in the place of birth, but it came to the top in Los Angeles. Saturn sextile Neptune, not very precise in natal chart, very precise in Graz. It's a little bit depressing aspect. It's not very exciting, right? Not that precise in London, and goes to the bottom in Los Angeles. And just another, you can look at these tables and find something else interesting, but this aspect of power, it does exist. Sun conjunction Pluto in the natal chart, not very precise, 6 degrees difference. I wouldn't count it as a precise aspect at all. Not shown here, not shown in Graz, not shown in London. In London, it's all about beauty and money Venus and Jupiter in success, but it comes to the top in Los Angeles. The aspect of power becomes precise there. This is about the transformation of aspects.
Sorry, could you?
Uh-huh.
For graphs where he was born, you use which charts?
Local space. You can create, you can
calculated differently
Yeah.
from his natal. Because I was going to be
You can create the normal, this is the natal chart, the
Yes.
normal natal chart as we create
Yeah.
all the natal charts. But then you can ask the software to create a local space chart in azimuth, in horizontal system
Okay.
for that location. It's a different chart totally. But this is a normal chart. I'm showing just to remind you that look where his sun is, look where his Pluto is. Quite a lot of distance between them. But in Los Angeles, because of this magic of local space chart, they become in conjunction. Yeah, let's just have a look at the chart itself to find angularity. The next step, let's find some angularity. We'll use the orb of 5 to 10 degrees, as recommended by our authorities, and which planet is close to the angle in this chart? Only the North Node, I would say. And the North Node, it's important for connections with people, for finding your direction in life, finding a group to join, for socializing like that. So in Graz, in his place of birth, it was important to find that direction in life and to communicate with people, to find some, maybe associate.
You give a different weight to east or west rather than north or south.
No, there's no difference. At the moment, probably there is a difference, but I never saw anyone. Basically, the only person who writes at length about this technology is Michael Lewine himself. Martin Davis wrote something, but none of them makes this difference, which angle says what, as far as I know. If you take London, we still have that North Node, even closer to the angle. But we also have Jupiter within the 10-degree orb. So a little bit of success here, shown by angularity. And if we go further, to Los Angeles, look, this beautiful Jupiter. It appears in every space astrology technology. In relocation, it's on the MC in Los Angeles. Here, it's on an angle. So this is a place of success with angular Jupiter, and the abilities of Jupiter and everything associated with Jupiter becomes very important in this location. That's about angularity. What else? Now, this is a little bit of a tedious chart, but still, it shows the pink underline is the planets the closest to the horizon, on the horizon, let's say. So in the place of birth, it's Mercury. Communication skills were always background for him. He needed to speak to people to succeed. And Venus, attractive appearance perhaps, and his charm were very important in that location. In London, none of the planets comes to the horizon. And in Los Angeles, it's Venus, very close to the horizon. So Venus is in the background for everything he does there. What is the highest planet? I've underlined with this green color, and I underlined both the node because it's not a planet, a kind of. I also underlined the highest real planet, Mars. So what's the priority? What's at the top in Graz? Well, socializing, again, finding connections with the node, but also sport, activity. He was into sports, into bodybuilding from the very early age. That was his priority. Do the priorities change when he moves to London? No, they're the same there. But when he moves to San Francisco. Okay, let's have a look at the deepest planet first. In Graz and London, it's Neptune. It's the foundation. And in his book, I remember he wrote that he had those dreams of becoming successful, of becoming a movie star, perhaps. Something, you know, fantastic happening in his life. That's like behind him. That's the roots in this place. They sort of fed him in his efforts. And when he moves to Los Angeles, Neptune becomes the priority. It's the highest planet. And the deepest planet becomes, I think it's the North Node. But the interesting point is that, yeah, his previous connections feed him there. But the aim is to become a movie star, becomes a real priority there, to become a legend. Also, these purple arcs show parallels. In the place of birth, it's a parallel between the sun and the moon, maybe because his father and mother lived there, I don't know. In London, we have a parallel between the moon and Mercury, like communication skills, and Venus and Uranus parallel, contra-parallel, which is very useful when the person is presenting himself at a competition of beauty of sorts, bodybuilders. Venus and Uranus, the kind of excitement, attracting attention. And in Los Angeles also we had some parallels. The moon and Saturn. I was thinking about this parallel, but then I thought he was a governor there. And the governor is a strict person who needs to discipline people and to be strict to them. And I think this parallel helped him there. And also Jupiter is in parallel with the MC, very, very useful for achieving high position in life. So that's just a brief illustration how local space chart can give us a lot of information, a lot more than any other locality astrology method, in my opinion. But which software packages support this technology? Of course, WinStar, because WinStar was created by Michael Edelwine. It fully supports this. Also, I have all these packages in my laptop. What I'm telling you, I might have not discovered how to do it, for example, in SolarFire. I couldn't find any local space in SolarFire at all. But WinStar does it, and Janus does it quite well. Astrocartography is there, yes.
There's an option.
Is there? Okay, maybe I just haven't found it. Yeah, but I'm always using WinStar for this, but also found that Janus does it quite well. Sirius Kepler. I've purchased this software not so long ago. I tried to create a local space chart there. It creates it, but in a way which is not the way I prefer to use it. So maybe again, you need to tune it a little bit. So I put a question mark there. I don't know. But good news is that astro.com charting services, which are free, completely free, can create this chart for you and can give you all the information you need. So just, I have a few slides that show where you can find that. This is the example of a local space chart created with Janus. Very nice. All the information you need. And this is astro.com. This is a page. You need to navigate the menu, but it's not that difficult to find extended chart selection. I think it's horoscopes, free horoscopes, something like that. Just they changed their menu recently, but shouldn't be too difficult. There is a place in this wonderful website where you can create all sorts of charts. And this is how you specify local space chart relocation, because you want to create it for a different location usually. And then there is a little bit below on the page, you specify the location for which you want to create it. And here's the chart created by this service. It's not as nice as like a chart is in Janus or in Star, but it gives you all the necessary information. The azimuths will be different here, but it doesn't matter because what matters is the difference in azimuths. But they count azimuths from some other point, which is not really essential. And to find this table, you need to click on the link. So the chart is shown separately, then there is a link somewhere here. You click it and you get the table with information. Longitude, azimuth, altitude. You get all the information and it's free. So if you want just to experiment before investing any money into expensive software, this is the way. And a little bit about my activities, because I'm currently working on a huge book which covers all the 3 main branches of the astrology of space. It's like Astrology for Travelers is the title for the publisher. It's going to be published, and I'm planning a series of online webinars discussing all this in detail with examples. And if you're interested, here's my email address. Please just express your interest, I will know. And this is my current version of website. I have a mess with websites. I had for many, still have website lunarium.co.uk, but because of technological problems, it's not that functional now. And the new version is being created there. And the most popular feature there, I'm not showing here because it's not relevant to this presentation, is a lunar calendar, which you can create for any month from probably 1900 to 2050, and for any location on the Earth. If the location is in Google Maps, maybe a village, maybe St. Neots, I tried yesterday, you can create. And it shows like phases of the moon, lunar days, all that essential lunar information. And these are my books, just to show you. All of them are in Russian, published so far. And also what I do, I was quite successful in publishing my online courses on Udemy. You know, udemy.com platform courses. And these are some of my courses, nothing about astrology of space here yet, but some of them. So this is it. Questions, please.
I noticed you haven't mentioned Jim Lewis.
Jim Lewis, yes. Jim Lewis is the creator of astrocartography. And his name associated with astrocartography. And I've got his books, and he's actually interpreting planets in their essential meaning. He doesn't look where the planet is in the natal chart or anything, what its dignity, what debility is, what its aspect is. Just Mars, danger, Venus, love, Jupiter, success, and so on. But he's the creator of astrocartography. He's the inventor. Yeah, I should have mentioned him, of course.
Mentions local space.
No, local space. Yeah, it's a totally different technology.
Will your new book be in English or Russian? Will your new book be in English?
It's in Russian. It's in Russian. Yeah, Western publishers do not like Russian authors. They're English-speaking authors.
This is a lot of important stuff. There's not much about this. Yeah. So it would be great to have it in English. It would be great. This very interesting.
Yeah, if I had some publisher contacts, I would consider.
There is a question from the
Yeah, please.
I think is about, she's referring to solar fire, and she's saying, isn't locality under the chart menu what we're looking for? Or is it different from local space? I think it is different.
Locality allows you to do many things in solar fire. In my experience, it allows you to do geodetic charts. I'm not sure about geodetic. A lot of stuff. Relocation first, yes, but not in my experience. It doesn't do local space. But I was told that maybe there is still local space in solar fire just need to look better. I was told that if you go to the ECG, to astrocartography maps, there is some menu there where you can find local space. Because it's such a powerful package, I would be surprised if it didn't offer anything.
Yeah.
So probably there is something which I still haven't found.
Right. Perfect. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions, please?
So philosophical, why do you think it's the power of personality or the temperament? Why do you think the Russians are so focused on time and space? I mean, why is it such a big deal in Russian?
They are focused, but in a narrow way. You know, the problem of Russian astrology is that few people actually can read in any language other than Russian. And when a certain book or certain lecturer comes to Russia and they present this knowledge, they become excited. There are so many people and they start using it and they start implementing it. For example, Hamburg School for Uranian astrology. It's not very popular anywhere else these days, but it's quite popular in Russia. There are at least two astrologers who are teaching it very actively.
So for the individual, really.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's interesting to think about the like extreme latitudes, like the tropical area and close to the poles, so beyond circles. For example, in the local space, because then in the tropical area you have a wide spread of altitudes in difference.
Yeah.
But you have a squeeze in azimuth, and the inverse is at the in the two polar areas. So that would be interesting to take some case studies.
We still should be able to use it in the polar areas. That's the benefit of this technology, because creating a relocation for the North Pole wouldn't be possible. Probably. So yeah, this is really, it's not very new technology, but it's been quite neglected, I would say. And what I brought together here was brought from a few different sources of information. Most of them are not really popular. So I wanted to attract your attention and to invite you to working with this very interesting instrument. For example,
Sorry. There's one more question from the Zoom.
Yeah.
So Mark is saying, isn't the parallel and contra-parallel in a chart global, or are you describing different declinations in local space?
No, they will do different parallels and contra-parallels. Everything will change, because when you move from place to place, the altitudes of planes change, and not linearly, because it's a sphere or a spheroid. And everything keeps shifting and transforming. And for example, I moved to Bulgaria 3 years ago, 3.5 years. And before that, I was doing something different. But then I came there, and I have Mercury on the horizon there. And I've got this contract with Russian publishers, and I keep writing. I cannot stop. I've published 9 books already. There are more coming. It's just crazy Mercury. But I've got it in the 5th house, so I like this. Yeah, I think we should always look at the natal chart and see how determined is the planet, in which sign it is, in which house it rules. That's always important, whatever we use. It will always show in all those charts, maps, and everywhere. This symbolism very often. If you have very strong Venus, follow the line of Venus. If your Venus is like mine, retrograde in Aries square Saturn, you probably shouldn't follow it. You won't be very happy there along the line. Yeah. Any other questions? To that things a little bit further. Thank you very much.
Thank you.